Okay, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today we have a very cool knife for you from Benchmade. A little bit about Benchmade and their history. They were founded in 1988 in California, and they produce knives that are made in the USA, which is definitely a plus. Their market segment is mid-range to high-end. And if I had to categorize this particular knife, it would be one of the ever popular titanium frame lock folding knives. Some key characteristics and design language is, you're going to have that Chris Reeve style, kind of that integral lock or frame lock, or here I believe Benchmade calls it a monolock, which is an evolution of the Walker liner lock. And kind of a key characteristic, of course, of a titanium frame lock is having a titanium handle. And then, the lock is going to be integrated there into the handle. So about the model, this particular model is the Benchmade 765 mini titanium monolock. And essentially it's an EDC sized premium titanium frame lock. The retail price is about $355, which is pretty pricey, but they do go for about $300 at kind of sale prices / street prices. So let's go ahead and zoom out and get into this a little bit. But before we do that, do the customary wristwatch check. So as you can see, I'm actually still wearing the Armida A1 42 millimeter in stainless steel. Great piece. I was actually wearing it earlier in my Doug Ritter / Kevin Wilkins mini grip review. So as you can see, great piece. Definitely recommend it. I'm looking forward to doing the full review soon. Let's go ahead and get a gratuitous loom shot in here for everybody. So if you came here for the knife reviews, hey, maybe stick around and check out one of my On the Wrist from Off the Cuff episodes, because we do review a lot of great watches as well. So really cool piece. Definitely recommend it. I'm a big fan. One thing to note though, this is an aftermarket bracelet from Strapcode. This is their tapering hexed oyster. The one that actually comes from Armida is very similar. Even down to the ratcheting clasp. The only difference is really aesthetically they look very similar, except it's a non-tapering bracelet. From Armida, this bracelet actually does taper down from 22 millimeters down to 18, which I think really just plays a little bit better and kind of adds that refinement. So big fan. But let's get into the 765. So, beautiful knife. I think that's kind of the first thing to get out of the way. Aesthetically fantastic. Finishing wise, again, top marks. This is just an extremely nice knife. There's really nothing to complain about. There's probably a couple things, but it's more so just because I'm going to be analyzing it for a YouTube review video. In real life, use case scenario, there's really not going to be much where this knife's going to fall short. So let's start with the blade. It's Böhler M390. Böhler's an Austrian company, so this is a European steel. M390 is considered an ultra premium stainless steel, so it's kind of have all your bases covered as far as Rockwell hardness, edge retention, wear resistance, corrosion resistance. It's going to have it all, right? So it's not going to be a steel that's going to have a lot of compromises where you get hardness, but then at the same time it's going to be a brittle steel or this or that, or it's going to be hold an edge really well, but it's going to be very susceptible to corrosion. That's not the case. This is going to be one of those steels that's going to be fives across the board. So the only real trade-off for this for using this steel is the price. It's an expensive steel, and rightfully so. So expect to see this in more expensive knives. So as far as the blade shape goes, it is of course that classic drop point blade. It has a nice flat grind, kind of that satin finish which is really kind of a combination of just that, you know, those grind lines with a very light stone washing on top. So I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you know, it's there nonetheless. I think it achieves a very cool look, almost as the light hits it, it just kind of makes it almost look like the blade's vibrating, and it's just it gives it just a little bit of motion, which is nice, I think. Oh, also to mention, this is a very sharp blade out of box. You'd be very surprised how many knives that don't come, you know, super sharp, that come just kind of sharp enough. This is not one of those cases. This is a very nice sharp blade, so I was happy to report that. The handle is titanium and it's sandblasted, so it gives it a nice, you know, very even and consistent matte finish there, you know, and it really helps highlight all of the contouring and the beveling that's been done on this handle. It's just a really gorgeous piece. So, you know, in the beginning of the video, it does show all the dimensions and everything, but one thing I wanted to note, again, was the weight. So this comes in at 3.16 ounces, so it's you know, a nice weight for sure. It's not super heavy. It's not so light to where it feels, you know, kind of weird in your hand, because that does happen sometimes when you have a really light knife. It can feel a little weird in your hand, a little bit too light, kind of like when you have a really light watch, right? A titanium watch, a lot of times it's gonna feel so light. It's although you know it's nice and it's high quality, it just doesn't carry that same weight. So sometimes it's nice to have just a little bit of that weight to kind of remind you that you have something that I don't know if your brain just kind of associates that with quality, but it's nice to have a little bit of that solid feel in your pocket. So, you know, in hand, the ergonomics are really great, very comfortable in hand, you know, well-placed jimping here, you know, a little bit of jimping there, some nice on the back here. So if you want to go for a reverse grip, I mean, it gives you jimping where you need it. So really nice. Helps lock the hand in, you know, although it's a relatively thin stock, it's wide this way, so it gives you a lot of purchase for your hand, you know, and yeah, there's that little cutout notch there that some people have complained about. It is sharp. I think when I first got it, the knife, I was a little bit more bothered by it. No, not so much now, honestly. I don't think my finger even wants to ride up there. I think it's more so going up there to just kind of feel it and see how that feels. But I think when my hand finds its grip on here, it normally is a little bit lower, and it just it avoids it kind of naturally. So that's not an issue for me. It might be an issue for you, you know, but for me, it's definitely not a deal breaker. I'm totally fine with this, and with that cutout there. And although it is a little bit sharp, I'm sure it's just kind of, you know, a little collateral damage in the machining when they had to cut out that little kind of inner over travel stop that's cut into the locking bar there. So the action, I mean, that's another, I mean, as far as the looks go, amazing, but the action is right up there with it as far as one of the big selling points for this knife. I mean, it's just so smooth, so fast. You know, opens and closes great. It has those thrush bearings, so those washers, you know, really enable it for that ultra smooth opening action, and really snappy detent as well. Really similar to a flipper, which is nuts. You know, I think with the 761, there were some complaints that the detent was just too weak. As you can see, this isn't going anywhere. It actually, they kind of erred on the side of safety. I mean, like if you don't get a good grip on that with your thumb, you know, you can misfire this. I mean, that's how well that detent holds the blade in. So by the time your finger's built enough pressure to break past the detent, this thing's gonna fly out, and the sound is just crisp, man. I mean, it's just, you hear that? It's just satisfying. That's just one of those things that a knife lover understands, that sound, that satisfying, you know, little thwip as the blade's deploying, and the crack that it makes when it locks in. So really beautiful sounding, great feeling in hand. One thing is in pocket, although it's, you know, slim and you know, pretty unobtrusive, and it does have, you know, the contouring is pretty nice to where your hand's going to be able to navigate past this in your pocket. For me, the only thing is although this is beautifully milled and looks great and it feels great in your hand, when you're trying to clip it onto your pocket, there's just not a lot of room, as you can see here. You know, that's just not a lot of room for material on your pants, so this is not going to be something that's just going to effortlessly slide on and off. I mean, is it going to be like this huge issue? I don't think so, but there have been honestly times when I've chosen not to carry this knife because of the pocket clip, and it's just didn't mesh well with the certain pants I was wearing. That it was just a little bit too thick, and then it was just riding a little bit too high. And of course I have other options, so for me it's not a big deal. I can carry something else if the pants I'm wearing kind of don't want to cooperate with the pocket clip. But something to think about. Now, as far as model variants go, there really aren't any. I mean, there's a larger model. I believe it's the 761 came before this, and this is just the smaller model. There aren't really, you know, it's not like there's another version with a different blade profile or steel or different handles or anything like that, you know, at least not yet anyway. So not many options from that side of it, but there are some comparable options out on the market from similar blades. So one, of course, that comes up and came up in the last video was my Doug Ritter mini grip with the Wilkins grip scales that are made out of titanium. Also, this is going to be a heavier knife, of course. I mean, there's a lot more titanium, as well as, you know, there are stainless steel liners that are in here, so it does add some weight. So it's definitely not going to have that featherweight feel, but, you know, this is going to be not a knife that, you know, you can just pick up, you know, online and kind of have shipped to your door. This is definitely going to be more of the connoisseur's carry. You know, somebody who really loves knives is going to be somebody that's going to go through all the trouble of kind of piecing this together and kind of making their own little custom knife. So, but I mean, as far as, you know, usability wise, there's really not much. I mean, I think you know, although this doesn't have all the, you know, all the most recent technology, it does have, you know, phosphor bronze washers as far as the pivot goes. It has that axis lock, which is, you know, kind of quintessential Benchmade locking system. So although it's, you know, it's not going to give you the same satisfaction as far as that action goes. I mean, you know, Benchmade, the axis lock is still a lot of fun though. There's a lot of different choices you have as far as deployment. You know, it's, I guess, arguably, it's more of the true Benchmade because it has an access lock. And they're relatively close in price, you know, about $300. And then by the time this is done, you're going to spend around $300. So definitely pretty close in spec and price. This one, though, is, to me, is just, you know, it's a sentimental piece. I think whenever you piece kind of something together and you take it from, you know, from something else in different parts, you know, same thing like some of the watch mods that I've posted on, there's just a certain level of satisfaction and, you know, personalization that comes with that. So it's nice. And then the cool thing is if you do see somebody with the same knife, you know that they kind of went the same route that you did, right? And there was a whole process to that, and it wasn't just you know, walking into the mall and picking it up. There's, you know, there's this research and, you know, weighing out the pros and cons of different choices and different options, and they came to the same conclusion as you, which is definitely pretty cool. So comparative option, really nice. So you can see, well, this is going to be not lefty friendly. This one is. So, you know, the cutting edge there is very similar, if not, you know, almost exactly the same. Although the blade is taller, the actual cutting edge, you know, they're fitting a lot of cutting edge into the mini grip here, which, you know, has a lot to do with, you know, Doug Ritter and, you know, his part in the redesign of that blade profile. So really great piece. Competitive option there. I'd say a little bit more in the vein of a competitive option is going to be your Sage. Ooh, look at that. Ooh. Your Sage 2. So as you can see, the action's a little bit different, right? This has phosphor bronze washers, but you know, if you want that nice blade centering, this is going to have to be a little bit tighter on the pivot. So when you're deploying it, you're going to have to actually do a little bit of a flick to get it to deploy fast. You know, not a lot of flick. I think I just misfired a couple times there just because my fingers were more postured for the thumb stud because I was playing with the Benchmade there for a second. Anyway, so I think these kind of have that very similar design concept, you know, beauty and simplicity, right? I mean, this is a very simple knife, but everything about it is just so purposeful, and it's just minimalist, you know, 3 bolts, you know, wire pocket clip, Spidey hole, you know, full flat grind, S30V steel, which is kind of, you know, you can think of it as like the M390 of yesteryear. Instead of being 5s across the board, you're going to see, you know, 4s across the board, you know, maybe 4s and 5s. S30 and S35V are still really great options. And, you know, I think this really wants to be open more like Sebenza, which is what it's paying tribute to. So, you know, just kind of that slow sweep deployment, but again, that click also very satisfying. You know, it doesn't give you the same detent satisfaction in closing, but the open, I mean, that thing sings to you as well. So, and then you also have this nice 50-50 choil, you know, plus the finger roof, so you can really lock in. This is going to be, I mean, this is kind of the ergonomic king. And this isn't the type of knife that becomes very many people's one knife. It's definitely one of those ones where quickly can become kind of your signature knife that you always carry because it's just that versatile. So, well, actually, let's hold them both up here and you know, compare lock side. You know, of course, the Benchmade is going to have a lot more ornate details, while the Spyderco is going to be a lot more simplistic in its execution. But you know, I think the kind of philosophy of use is very similar for these two knives. Even the finishing, as you can see, the color palette is also very similar. So let's go ahead and get some closing thoughts and just have these on the table here, and I'll zoom in and let's just get them lined up a little bit better there. Sorry about that. Oh, okay. All right. So, you know, kind of in closing, you know, there's definitely some different options that you have for you. If you really want to have M390, you're gonna have less options. But if you want a very solid titanium frame lock knife, I mean, there's just kind of endless options out there right now. So, you know, I'd say the bottom line is this is an extremely high quality modern EDC knife. You know, and it's backed by one of the industry's best warranties, you know, from Benchmade. So it definitely, there's also a lot of great, you know, kind of micro brand knives that are coming out now, you know, from overseas, but they're not going to have the same warranty level. So that's something to consider, especially when you're going to be spending this much money on a knife. So, you know, to me, it's just a great piece. Definitely one of my favorites. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked the video, please hit like. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe and stay tuned for future updates. Thanks, guys. Bye.